Hello, everybody. It's Alex again, the founder of the Remote Work Life Summit, and I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the Remote Work Life Summit so far and, getting as much as you possibly can out of all of the great speakers that are on the agenda. We're coming towards the end of the first phase of the summit, and the first phase was the discover phase, where we've listened to people like, for example, Richard Barrett, who's talked about values in the workplace, in the world of work. We've listened to Nick Francis, who's talked about culture and talked about what you can expect when you're working remotely. We've heard from Scott Barlow yesterday, who talked about strengths, discovering strengths. So we've come to the end now of the discover phase. We're going to move on. We're going to move forward now onto the message phase, because it's important. Obviously, that self-discovery is really important before you then move on to begin to sort of really articulate what you've discovered about yourself. Once you've discovered all you need to know about yourself, that's the point at which you can then begin to tell the world about who you are, and hopefully begin to make those connections with people who are of a similar mindset to you, or have similar ideals, values, etc. And by the way, I hope you've been doing the workbook that I included as well. I hope you got the workbook. If you haven't, let me know. Either email me or drop me a line, because that's really important. Because it's not just about listening to what these speakers have to say. It's also about implementing it with yourself, so that you feel as though you're making some form of progress. So as we move away from this discover phase, I want to share with you some ideas now in terms of just to really wrap things up from that perspective, how you can sort of begin to really further understand yourself before you then move on to sort of articulating. So I've got 4 ideas for you to help you, or questions that you can ask yourself to help you with this. So the first question, which has actually I covered partially in yesterday's video, so I'm not going to go into any detail about that one. But the first thing is to think about the problems, the causes, the things in the world that you want to be part of in terms of helping the improvement. What really engages you where that is concerned. That's one of the things that I think you should look at when it comes to understanding yourself and understanding what kind of businesses, what kind of opportunities that you want to align with. So that's one thing, one idea, which, as I said, I covered that yesterday, so I won't go into detail about that. The next question is, I think you should begin to engage other people as well. So if you're working in business for yourself, talk to your clients, talk to your existing clients who know you well enough to be able to answer questions about you. Ask them this question. Say to them, why do you like doing business with me? Because that will give you some confidence in many ways, but it'll also give you some answers that maybe you may not be able to sort of articulate yourself. So I know sometimes it can be quite difficult talking about yourself. So it's sometimes better to get people to talk about you and give you the information that you need. As I said, it gives you that confidence, but it also gives you the information you need to understand what it is that people like about you, what they say about you. And then you can include that in your message. You can include that in your own marketing. It's part of your own personal brand. So ask, a client, and if you're employed, you can ask somebody who's a trusted colleague, a trusted friend. You can ask them, why do you like to work with me? And you can have a conversation around that and make mental notes, or if you want to write it down, you can write it down. They'll tell you what it is they like about you. So they'll probably talk about things like your skills. They may talk about your strengths. They may talk about the softer things like your values. Like, for example, you always want to get things done on time, etc. All those kinds of things, which again was going to give you the confidence that you need to then, I hope, really go out there and sort of tell people why you're so good at what you do. And the reason I'm harping on about this is because it's so important. I think a lot of people, when they're starting out on a journey of discovering, which remote businesses suit them or which remote opportunities suit them, they kind of if if they don't do this from the very beginning, if they don't have a self-understanding, if they don't understand what niches they want to get into, etc., do the planning and all that sort of groundwork, you get to a point where you get sort of low on energy halfway through your whole sort of, if you're prospecting for clients or if you're in a new role, you kind of start to lose energy because you're perhaps not as engaged as you should be, or you're perhaps not as interested as you should be. So I think this upfront work will kind of, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that it's going to completely prohibit or sort of prevent you from being disengaged, but if you can do some of this groundwork, or as much of this groundwork as possible, and there's much more to it than I can describe in such a short time, if you could do some of this groundwork beforehand, it's going to help you to really, like I said, have an understanding of yourself. One other thing that you can do, especially if you're just starting out, or even if you're not just starting out, is review some of the projects that you've done, some of the historic projects that you've done, either in the world of employment or things that you've done with other clients. Review them and say to yourself, ask yourself, which of these projects did I most enjoy? Did I get most enjoyment from? Did I get most sort of satisfaction from? Which projects made me the most happy? Which clients made me, when I was working with, which clients made me the most unhappy? Obviously, the clients that don't pay you on time are the ones that are going to make you unhappy. But aside from that, which clients that you, the clients that you worked with, were you able to sort of get on with, and things just ran smoothly, and you really enjoyed the work, you really enjoyed what they do? Because that also will give you an inkling as to where you might want to take things and sort of really sort of focus your business development, or focus in finding opportunities that suit you. So that, I don't want to make this video too long, but I hope this has given you some ideas that you could take forward. And I really sort of encourage you to do this self-reflection, do this discovery phase, understand the niches, understand yourself before you take any further action going forward. So that's it for now. As I said, we're moving on to the next phase of the summit, which is I've called it the message phase, whereby you start to really articulate what you've learned in the discovery phase, and you start to really tell the world, why you're so great at what you do, whether that be in person in your networking events, or online on your social profiles, or your message, the messages that you send out, the instant messages. You're articulating why you're so great. But I think more often than not, if you can create profiles on places like LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it may be online, your resume, if you're looking for work, if you can create a profile that really sort of talks about, in a professional way, what you're all about, what you tend to get is people sort of gravitating towards you, right? So that's the idea. But obviously, when you're in a face-to-face scenario, it's all about selling yourself, selling that brand that is you. We all have a personal brand, whether we like it or not, and this is part of your brand, who you are. So, as I said, this is all I have for you for the moment. Let me know if there are any questions. It's very quiet in the group at the moment. I'm ready for your questions, and if I can't answer them, please let me know. Well, I'll find somebody who can answer them for you. I want you to get, the reason I set this whole thing up is for you. I set this up because originally all of these interviews, I was just going to keep them and sort of use them for myself, for my own sort of personal development. But I thought, that you could actually get a lot from this as well. You could get a lot from understanding, how people like Leon Richards, who is a nomad, not a digital nomad, a remote CEO himself, how Michelle Dale became a digital 7-figure digital nomad herself, set up her businesses. I got the inspiration myself, so I wanted to pass that on to you, but you need to let me know what else you need. What do you want to hear? Is there anything missing? Ask me questions, via the group. So the best way to keep up to date with the next batch of speakers who are coming up is via email, actually, because that's when I immediately send out an email when the videos are live. Facebook, I've noticed, is not very reliable in terms of you know, posting stuff, posting videos. Sometimes the videos don't upload when I want them to. So the best way is to jump on my mailing list. It's if you go to remoteworklife.io, if you're not already there, then you can receive email alerts from me as soon as the videos go live. On the agenda today, I'll just quickly say who's on the agenda today. Some, as I said, in my humble opinion, some really sort of top speakers. So Sarah Park, who's the president of Edgar. You've probably come across Edgar. It's called Meet Edgar. If you go to meetedgar.com, it's a social media automation software which helps you to sort of automate your posts to different social media profiles. And she talks about how she got into her role, into her remote role with Meet Edgar. And she's a social media expert herself. So I think if you're interested in getting into social media or upping your game where social media is concerned, it's certainly one to look out for. So another person to listen out for is Josh Waldman. He's a careers expert. He talks about social media as well, the importance of social media, in the art of actually engaging and messaging people and talking to people using social media online, all that sort of thing. And Tasia Dusky. Tasia Dusky is a CEO who's really experienced. She's really experienced a rapid rise to becoming CEO of Museum Hack. A Museum Hack, they do really awesome sounding museum tours. And Tasia is now the CEO. She describes how she transitioned from a really corporate role. She used to work in the hospitality industry. She describes how she transitioned from, you know, her world in the corporate world to the startup world, and how different that is, and how much she got that fulfillment from that, and how she went about that in terms of presenting herself and, you know, showing her message to the world. So I urge you to listen out for those. I'll keep them online for you in the Facebook group, and I'll let you know as soon as they're live. As I said, any questions, let me know, and I will speak to you soon.